Hello there, welcome back to the channel. And there is, before we get started, a quick little announcement, and that is, between myself and my wife, we have recently started our own small company. It's an online business to start with. I know what you're thinking, it's another YouTube guy selling YouTube stuff related to the channel. Not quite. In real life, outside of this, I have quite an upsettingly long history in retail, and as a result of that, I hate life. But I do have a lot of experience in that industry, and as a result, we've decided between us, collectively, we've got more years than we want to admit in retail, to start our own company. So there is a link down in the description below. It's called alternativeworld.co.uk, and it specializes primarily in alternative fashion and clothing, as well as a variety of other different add-ons. Now, some of it is of our own design. My wife is quite a good artist, and some of the stuff she has drawn and we've had designed onto t-shirts and hoodies and a few other things, and others I got commissioned from other people I know who are quite artistically inclined and have designed me some individual unique things, as well as other things coming from suppliers. As in the work I do outside of this, I deal a lot with fashion retail suppliers and other people, and have taken them on as direct suppliers for this company. So some of the stuff on there is actually branded and isn't just something you think maybe I've printed at home. It's actually got a label and is branded. So please check it out. It is new, and at the moment there is limited stock, and at the moment we can only supply to the UK, but we're hoping to grow. But to do that, we need to start growing a little bit and actually generating some sales. So if you want to, check it out, have a look what we've got. And with that said, we're going to get into this video. Today's episode is on an alien species from the Delta Quadrant encountered by the USS Voyager while stranded there in the 2370s. This race are called the Numiri. In terms of physical appearance, they're humanoid, seemingly hairless, with very distinctive facial features. But their species were innately hostile and very covert and fairly underhanded. Kind of remind me of Cardassians, actually. The Numiri were known to Neelix and the Talaxians and others for being a fairly closed society, and Neelix would be stated as saying the Numiri never needed an excuse to attack anybody. They were known for random acts of aggression and being rather belligerent. Again, kind of reminding me of Cardassians here. Their species technologically were quite interesting, in that, like many Delta Quadrant races, they lacked a lot of the same amenities that Federation technology afforded Starfleet, such as replicators, transporters and the like. However, they did possess some areas of technology that actually rivaled those of the Federation. Now this could be, in my speculation, a reflection of their belligerent culture. The Numiri were generally a more hostile race and more militaristic. Now we know that war and militarism tends to breed a certain degree of industrious development in certain key technological areas, namely weapons systems. The Numiri patrol vessel, for example, although a much smaller and generally inferior vessel to a Federation starship of an Intrepid class design, actually had directed energy weapons that were equal in strength to the phasers of an Intrepid class starship. It also was noted for having regenerative shields, one of the earliest encounters with this technology in the Delta Quadrant, or in general actually. This gave the vessels a distinct advantage. Now they're lacking in other areas, notably their sensor technology, and again seemingly in many other areas compared to the Federation, did give them a distinct disadvantage overall, but they had also the home field advantage of there was a lot more of them, whereas Voyager found it harder to repair and get help. The Numiri weren't really struggling for that. As a species, they were at war with the Benayan. The Benayan were a race who the two species actually seem to have once shared a homeworld. It is implied, although I can only assume this is true, that both species actually evolved on said planet and for whatever reason separated. But because of continued hostility between the two races, a Benayan double agent actually framed a member of the crew of Voyager on behalf of the Numiri in order to, make it look like they did it and not the Numiri wanting to look like the aggressors and maybe escalate hostilities, to assassinate a particular individual they wanted dead. The actual assassin was the one that would then frame Lieutenant Paris from Voyager and get him convicted of the crime. Although this was ultimately all exposed, despite the Numiri's best efforts to prevent said disgrace being shown, it was eventually discovered, their deception, and they ended up in a bit of a battle, which is where we learn that Numiri vessels are actually pretty goddamn tough, and again, in numbers at least, able to go toe-to-toe with a Federation starship. Again, their inferior size and broadly inferior technology did give them a disadvantage, but in terms of tactical systems, their ships were equal, if not very, very close, at least, to Federation technology. We don't really see or hear much of them again, and we don't know much more about their vessels. For example, they're not demonstrated to utilize warp capability, although I would assume they actually do have this capability, and it's only the fact that these particular ships were never seen to use it, or perhaps didn't have it on board these vessels, that is why we didn't see it. However, the idea that a spacefaring civilization could travel the stars without anything remotely resembling some form of FTL capability is a bit ridiculous, and although there are other means of traveling to other star systems other than utilizing conventional warp drives, I doubt the Numiri possess the kind of technical skill to do that. But you never know, I suppose. And that is the Numiri. We never encountered them again because Voyager flew out of their range, and quite frankly, as much as Voyager was a convenient scapegoat for them to blame a foreign traveller in the area, no one really knows them. They were an easy person to blame the murder on, the assassination of this particular weapons developer. But it wasn't really worth pursuing them and engaging in continued hostilities with Voyager when they've got bigger problems closer to home. Pragmatic, violent, belligerent and aggressive species local to the Delta Quadrant, not the friendliest, probably not ever going to be a Federation member state. But what do you know about this race? Let me know if this is an episode of Voyager that stands out, because let's all face it, there were many episodes of Voyager that didn't always stand out, and this was very much a bad guy of the week scenario. But personally, I remembered them. It's why I actually decided to cover them today. Because I don't know what it was, but there was something about the species. I think it was their underhandedness and the sort of uncanny valley. Although they don't look like a Cardassian, there were shades of Cardassianism to them, for lack of a better way of phrasing that. And there was just something about the race I kind of liked, and I thought it was a good story. It was a very interesting, sort of convoluted, sort of attempt to assassinate this particular one person of this race. Went to such great lengths to do it, but ultimately would still fail, because they're going up against the Federation. But what do you think about them? Do you remember them? And do you think they maybe should make a return? I mean, there's opportunities if we don't get Prodigy, if Prodigy doesn't get cancelled, which, by the way, #save Star Trek Prodigy, maybe we could see a return of many of these deep Delta Quadrant races. After all, in Star Trek Picard recently, we did get a reference to the Herodian, a species I think I'm going to have to cover soon. But I should point out, because I think they're fantastic. Basically Star Trek's predators. And yeah, we're at the end of this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Please, again, don't forget to check out our website in the description below. It is not just a merch store for this channel. It is actually a business that myself and my partner are actually creating, and at some point hope to have a physical location store, not just an online store. So there is a bigger plan here that we're only in the very early stages of developing. And again, I'm sorry if you are watching this somewhere other than the UK. At the moment, I can't actually distribute beyond the UK at the moment, but eventually, if we can get a little traction, that will change. In the meantime, thank you for watching this episode. Please like, share and subscribe, comment down below, and bye bye. I'd just like to say a thank you to everyone for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy making these. If you did enjoy it, please consider giving a like, share and a subscribe, and maybe checking out the other videos on the screen right now, and in the description box below there are links to my other social media accounts.